Is this a great game or what? With the Hall of Famer Tim Kurkjian, I'm his son Jeff Kurkjian, and Dad, what an all-star episode we had yesterday. A huge thank you to Cal Ripken Jr. and his son Ryan Ripken for being our guests. They were incredible.
And they put up with our nonsense, Jeff. I mean, really, we asked them about Mario Kart, who would win in an arm wrestling contest. I mean, only we would ask stupid questions like that, and only the Ripken boys would be good-natured enough to go along with us on this. We had a wonderful time. But, Jeff, I need to ask a question. I am terrible on Twitter. I stink at it. I don't even understand it. So you sent something out on Twitter about the Ripken episode. And the first thing I see is somebody writes in dope crossover. Now, what does that mean? It followed a Kurkjian and Kurkjian, Ripken and Ripken podcast episode, and we get dope crossover. Now, would you please attempt to explain to 68-year-old Pop who's worried now, what does that mean?
Well, we did talk about your crossover in the episode because we hit on you and Cal Ripken Jr. playing quite a few basketball games together. But I hate to tell you that it's not about your basketball crossover. My guess, so let's start with dope. The word dope is a good thing, Dad. I know that, we call each other dopes, and dope is also something that maybe back in the 70s you would smoke. Maybe not you particularly. I don't know.
Not me. Right.
Okay.
Keep going.
Well, dope in 2025 is a good thing. Like, oh, that's dope means that's great, or that's awesome, or that's perfect. That's cool.
Right.
So them saying dope crossover is like, crossover is between the brands of Ryan Ripken and his show, The Ryan Ripken Show, and obviously Cal Ripken Jr., the Hall of Famer, and our show, Is This a Great Game or What? Crossing over, coming together to an episode together. So it's a dope crossover because it's an awesome joining of our brands, all of us together. Does that make sense?
Well, if that's what she meant by it, yes. And then therefore I'm happy about this as opposed to someone being upset. That would bother me because there's no way anyone could be upset with the podcast we did with the Ripkens. It was really fun to do. Okay, well, that makes me feel a little bit better.
But I'll make you feel even better in saying that I do think you still, at age 68, have a pretty dope crossover on the court.
All right. I have an artificial hip, Jeff. I have no more crossover. All right. Archie Clark taught me that in the 60s, late 60s, and then Allen Iverson perfected it. It's the greatest single off the dribble move in the history of the NBA was Allen Iverson's crossover with both hands. All right. Off the topic, Jeff. Keep going.
Dad, I'm going to ask you a question, and this might make you uncomfortable because I know there's one thing that you and I don't breach the topic of at all, okay? But as your son, I'm kind of coming to my dad.
I think I know where you're going here. Keep going.
I, immediately following recording this, I have to, in my home, I picked up a kit at the doctor's office. I have to provide a stool sample for my doctor. And listen, TMI, I usually don't have problems going to the bathroom. I have never been more shy to use the restroom. Have you ever had to do this? There's directions. There's different vials. I am so nervous.
Jeff, I have trouble peeing in a cup. You have to poop in a cup. What are you, crazy? How are you going to do that? What are the physics involved? How are you going to attempt this?
You have to go in a bowl that they provide that sits between the seat and the toilet. And then from there, you put on some gloves and you scoop some specimen out into the 5 different tubes that they've provided. Some can stay room temperature. One has to go in the freezer. Dad, I told my wife when I got home and she said, we were going to do it before the podcast, and by we, I mean me, because she says, I want nothing to do with this.
She better not be involved with that.
And I'm going to do it immediately following this just to get it done, and I'm so scared. But Emily told me I cannot keep anything in our home that immediately after I do it, I have to go back to the doctor and drop it off. I was going to mow the lawn after the podcast today. That plan is over because now I have to immediately go back to the doctor's office in order to do this.
All right, Jeff, talk about way too much information. That was awful, but I'm so glad you're trying to get yourself healthy. And I'm not making this up, Jeff. This morning, the same morning that you're going to poop in a cup, we got a new toilet installed in our house. How about
Really?
that? What are
Which toilet?
Next to Mom's office on the first floor.
Oh, yeah, that's needed.
Yeah. So, this has nothing to do with anything, Jeff, but I'm always amused by how people use the word irony. They use it incorrectly all the time. And look, I'm not some English lit guy. I'm not a wordsmith by any means. I've never been to a comic convention, but it bothers me that people don't use the word irony properly. To me, in journalism school, we were taught the textbook definition of irony is the firehouse burned down. That would be ironic if the firehouse burned down. But let's see how good your memory is. You have given me two cases of irony, and let's see if you can remember either one. And one of them has to do with a toilet.
Yeah, I remember that one, that the toilet store doesn't have a bathroom.
That's true. You went looking for a toilet. You had to go to the bathroom, and they said, we don't have a
restroom here, sir.
All right. Now, Jeff, that is almost as good as the firehouse burned down.
Yeah.
And you went to Syracuse. What's the other irony there?
The Carrier Dome, formerly the Carrier Dome, named after Carrier Air Conditioning, did not have air conditioning.
Right. Okay, again.
It would be like being at the T-Mobile Park and having no cell service.
Right. Okay. Very good, Jeff. You remembered both of them, and I think that both of those qualify as irony, whereas a lot of other irony is just a coincidence. So we'll leave it at that. But good memory, Jeff. I'm so glad.
Okay, that's enough of the crap chat here, Dad. I've got a lot more.
That's enough of irony. That's enough of poop. That's enough of toilets.
We need baseball is what we need. Give us the takeaways of what you got going on, Dad.
All right, Jeff, we're taping this on Wednesday. Tuesday was just another amazing day at baseball. If you really look at what happened yesterday, the Rockies, by the way, won a third straight game, which is, noteworthy in itself. Meanwhile, the Yankees on the same day got shut out for the third straight time. That ties a club record, meaning they've never been shut out 4 games in a row. Those happened on the same day. Also on the same day, Aaron Judge 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts, and Shohei Ohtani struck out 4 times. So the 2 best players in the game both struck out 3 and 4 times. And this is just another reminder, Jeff, how hard it is to get a hit in the big leagues today. And when those 2 guys are having trouble at the plate, then everyone has trouble. By the way, that was the 5th 4-strikeout game of Ohtani's career. And I'm just saying that because, people strike out at an alarming rate today. Mm-hmm. And to go back and talk about, Stan Musial and Joe DiMaggio and Tony Gwynn only had 1 3-strikeout games in their entire career, 1 each. And Ohtani's had 5 4-strikeout games. That might surprise some people, but it just proves again exactly how hard it is to get a hit. Also yesterday, Jeff, of course, Rafael Devers made his debut with the Giants. He was the designated hitter, hitting third, and came out publicly and said, I'll play any position that you want me to play. Does that surprise you at all, Jeff?
No, I think at that point, he kind of learned his lesson, and now he wanted out of the regime that he was in, and now he's saying, I can't do this again. I can't pull this again. I learned my lesson. And, listen, Boston Red Sox fans, Dad, we got a lot of comments from your comments about Devers on the Tuesday episode, and you had kind of seen both sides. You felt like the Red Sox mismanaged the situation with Bregman, but you also kind of said, but at the same idea, you got to be willing to work, right? You're making a lot of money. I thought it was really neat, all of that aside, to get a standing ovation from the Giants fans at his first at bat. I thought that was really cool. It gave me chills. He ended up getting an RBI in his second at bat ever as a Giant. I just thought it was a cool moment.
Yeah, it was great. It was great for baseball also that a player of that caliber moves, standing ovation, we move on from there. Also on Tuesday, Jeff, we had a hit by pitch record, which I'm going to tell you about when we get to the Kurkjians. And Jason Alexander got a victory yesterday. Does that mean anything to you?
Seinfeld?
Yes. So I put together a team Tim, which we will do later in the show. And Jeff, you talk about a reach. Oh my God, this reach is longer than Will Chamberlain's reach. Okay. But you being a Seinfeld expert is going to help me with this. Well, you know more than I do about Seinfeld. I'm sure you do.
Oh, no. I think you know. Well, we'll find out. You know who knows a lot is my brother-in-law, Mark, knows a lot about Seinfeld. All I know is my favorite character is Lloyd Braun. And that's
Right.
because Lloyd Braun was in your wedding.
Right. Matt McCoy, my dear friend from high school, played Lloyd Braun. We were the same year did I ever tell you I went to Walter Johnson High School? So
Wait,
did Matt
what?
McCoy. Yes. So that was pretty cool. Yes. Okay. So Jason, yeah. And the other takeaway, and there's only one other this week, Jeff, but there are a million of them each week. We've got to keep the show rolling, is that Cal Raleigh had another great game for the Mariners. We talk about him almost every week on this podcast because now he's got 27 home runs, drove in 6 runs on Tuesday night to spark an easy win over the Red Sox. So 27 homers, meaning the only primary catcher who's got more home runs at the All-Star break in the history of baseball is Johnny Bench, who hit 28 in 1970. And I repeat about Cal Raleigh, Jeff. It would be one thing if he was just some big slugger who could hit homers from both sides of the plate. He is a great defensive catcher. He is a great framer of pitches. He has a great throwing arm. He blocks balls in the dirt. He does everything that a really good defensive catcher does. And he hits in the middle of the order. And he's got 27 home runs through Tuesday games. So that's pretty darn good.
Dad, I have a bit of a Kurkjian. Are you ready to move on to the
Yes,
Kurkjians?
we're on to the Kurkjians.
I thought I would just beat you to it because I should have texted you ahead of time. Some people noticed it on Twitter, but I wanted to get to it as well. So I'm going to shout some people out on Twitter and thank them for, one, listening to the show. Peter Kapachuskinski, terrible pronunciation. Also, Mike Kula, both of these gentlemen reaching out to us and saying, oh my gosh, I hope that Tim Kurkjian and Jeff Kurkjian know this. I had already tracked this. On Tuesday night, I think it was. Nope, sorry, Monday night. The Phillies taking on the Marlins. And Otto Kemp.
Yes.
Do you have this?
All over it, yeah.
Is it part of your Kurkjians? Otto Kemp played a game against the Marlins.
Otto Lopez. I got it,
and he
Jeff.
popped out to the shortstop, Otto Lopez.
Who do you think you're talking to here? You don't think I noticed 2 Ottos playing in the same game? Thank you to the 2 fellas, really cooler that someone would send that in. Yeah, you or Otto the Orange at Syracuse. Jeff, that's so good.
So,
I didn't even connect those 2.
Yeah, Otto the Orange, legendary Syracuse mascot, who I had the pleasure of portraying with my teammates for 4 years at Syracuse. And Otto Kemp also had a game where he went 4 for 4, and this is way at 2 inside. 44 is Syracuse's lucky number. We got Ernie Davis wore it, Jim Brown wore it. It's like a legendary number. So at a game I was at, Otto Kemp went 4 for 4, 44, and then Otto popped out to Otto. This is just the best.
Well, you added to it, Jeff. I forgot all about the fact that you were Otto, even though I bring it up every time. I didn't forget that you were Otto. I never forget that I spent $50,000 a year for you to go to college so you could dress up in a little orange man suit and run around like a clown all day. But you were great at it, Jeff. You were really good. So,
Dad, you told that joke during the London broadcasts when the Philly fanatic came up to you in the booth, and the amount of tweets and people and conversations we got around Syracuse was fantastic.
Right. Well, thank you, Jeff. Okay. All right. We'll start the Kurkjians with the Ottos because I noticed the exact same thing. He grounded out to Otto Lopez in the 2nd inning, then popped out to him in the 6th inning. So auto to auto. I read this somewhere. I didn't check with anyone, but apparently it's the first time since 1916 that someone with the first name of Otto played against somebody with the first name of Otto, and they were involved in the same plays together. So I tried so hard, Jeff, to come up with the all palindrome team off of this in Major League history, but there just weren't enough. There, Dick Nenn, who I grew up watching with the Senators, would have been the first baseman. Rob Nenn, his son. Toby Hara, who I covered with the Rangers, is the shortstop. Dave Otto pitched in the major leagues. I remember a guy named Johnny Reeder, Reder, long time ago. I didn't remember Eddie Kazak, Kazak, but I was all over the Salases. Mark Salas and Fernando Salas both played in the major leagues. Mark was a catcher. Fernando was a pitcher. And Jeff, would that not qualify as the greatest battery of all time if the catcher and the pitcher were both palindromes? Am I wrong about this?
Your brain would explode if that happened.
Jeff, what are my two favorite batteries of all time? Let's see if you can remember
Burger
these.
King.
No, the battery, pitcher, batter. I mean, pitcher,
I thought Burger faced King.
Yeah,
King faced Burger.
Jeff, a battery is the pitcher and the catcher.
Oh, I can't remember those now. What's your favorite?
It's okay. Well, we had an Abbott and Castillo battery, which I loved.
Close.
Marty Castillo caught Glenn Abbott. But my favorite was when Bud Black pitched to Steve Decker. So we had the Black and Decker battery. Those days, as Steve Russian once said, Steve Decker wore the power tools of ignorance on the days that he caught Bud Black. Again, another beautiful thing by Steve Russian. All right, I buried the lead, Jeff, on the Kurkjian. So I'm going through the box scores on Wednesday morning at 5:00, drinking a Diet Mountain Dew. What a life I have carved out for myself, Jeff. And I get about halfway through the box scores, and I say, wow, there were a lot of hit batters. It sure looks like a lot of hit batters. So I go back again and I count them all. There were 29 hit batsmen in baseball on Tuesday night. Seemed like a lot to me. So I texted Frank from the Elias at 6:00 in the morning. And I said, Frank, this is just a hunch. I can't find this myself, of course, but I count 29 players got hit by a pitch in one night. And he writes me back, pretty good hunch, Tim. That's the most batters that have ever been hit in one day in Major League Baseball since 1900. The previous record was 27 on September the 8th of 2020. So, Jeff, I can't even begin to tell you the excitement that when I have a hunch like this, and then it turns out to be not only a good note, it's, well, depending on whether you like this stuff, it's a great note. I mean,
it's a record. I mean, it's not just a note. It's a record now that, June the 17th, 2025, most hits that's averaging almost 2 hit batsmen
per game. Right.
That's crazy.
Jeff, I can't even, I mean, other than the birth of you and Kelly, that might have been the greatest moment of my whole life. That Frank texted me back and said, Tim, that was a great hunch. That's the most ever since 1900. Boy.
Did he comment at all that he was upset that you didn't name your new dog Frank from the Elias?
I did not bring that up to Frank from the Elias. Okay, a couple other things, Jeff. The A's Tuesday night lost another game by 10 runs. So now they've lost 8 games this year by 10 or more runs. The record for such things is 9, at least before the All-Star break, by the A's in 2023. So we're almost there. And they're going to do that and also keep in mind, Jeff, the Mets have not allowed 10 runs in a game this season. The only team that hasn't. And the A's have lost 8 games by 10 runs. Do you find that interesting at all?
I do. Offense is coming back, Dad. This is exciting because I feel like we were in such a pitching era. Now you even see the Rockies scoring 10 runs. It's just crazy.
Right. It's crazy. Okay, a couple other things. The Yankees have played 5 1-0 games already. The most 1-0 games they've ever played was 7 in 1980, and they're almost there already, and we're not even to the All-Star break. And again, the Yankees have had tremendous amount of trouble scoring runs, at least through Tuesday. And the last thing, Jeff, leading to the worst team, Tim, of all time, Jason Alexander, formerly of the A's, now pitching for the Astros, got his first victory of the season. He's won a couple major league games before this year, but I just thought it would be in the spirit of this show to come up with the all Seinfeld team based that Jason Alexander won a game. So are you ready for this? And be ready to cut all of this out.
I've never been more ready than I am right now.
All right. Well, since Jerry Seinfeld is the key to the whole show, I was going to start with the catcher has to be Jerry Grody, one of the great catchers, defensive catchers in baseball history, and a Met, of course. And Jerry Seinfeld is a huge Mets fan. So I should start with Jerry Grody there, but I didn't have a Peterman. You know Mr. Peterman, right?
Yep, 100%.
Well, there was a guy named Bill Peterman who caught a long time ago for 1 year, I think 1916. So I had to take Jerry Grody out, use another Jerry. Bill Peterman is the catcher.
Great.
All right, this is where the stretching begins. Jackie Robinson is our first baseman because he first game he ever played in the major leagues, first year he ever played was a first baseman. Do you know anyone on the show named Jackie? Jackie Childs.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like, Jeff, these Seinfeld fans are going to kill us. Like, of course, everyone knows who Jackie Childs is. This is not my expertise. It's not like we're talking about Get Smart here, okay?
Right.
All right, Kevin Kramer is the second baseman.
Oh, of course, Kramer. Right.
And Kevin Newman is the shortstop. So I covered a game in Pittsburgh 1 year where Kevin Kramer and Kevin Newman were the starting middle infield for the Pirates. So I asked Kevin Newman about his last name. He told me once, he said, not a day goes by where someone doesn't come up to him and go, hello, Newman, like that. I mean,
you have to.
That's unbelievable. All right. The third baseman is George Brett because George Costanza. But George is, of course, famous in that. The outfield is a tremendous stretch. Frank Robinson, George's father, is Frank Costanza.
Yeah.
Rich Childs, Jackie Childs is one of our outfielders. And Jerry, as in Jerry Seinfeld, Jerry Mumphrey is one of the outfielders. I'm sure I could have done a lot better than that. Jason Alexander is one of the pitchers. And we're going to use the same last name twice for the brothers, Andy and Alan Bennis, because Elaine's last name is Bennis.
That was really good, Dad. I'm really happy with that team.
All right. I tried, Jeff. It's my fourth favorite sitcom of all time. And so, but I'm not suggesting it was great. And I'm
Give us the other three.
Oh, Get Smart 1, All in the Family 2, Dick Van Dyke 3, Seinfeld 4, Cheers 5. That's the list.
Wow. And you gave it in order, Dad. Wow.
Right. Oh, it always has to be in order. All right. So those
we're gonna create some enemies.
Right, Jeff. If anyone who's a big Seinfeld fan and way better than me at this, please give us your list. I tried Putty everywhere, David Putty, and I couldn't find a big leaguer, Puddy, anywhere. If someone could find that for me, please. That would have been a perfect addition, but I couldn't find it.
Well, coming up next here on Is This a Great Game or What? We've got On This Date in Baseball History. Ozzy to Oral. Dad, you're going to do are we on to 22 now?
22. Not easy, but painful, but I think I got it correct. I think.
The greatest Baltimore Oriole of all time. We'll settle that argument. And a special guest, Seamhead. It's all coming up next on Is This a Great Game or What? Welcome back to Is This a Great Game or What, Dad? Let's jump right into On This Date in Baseball History, June the 19th.
Right. On this date in 1903, Lou Gehrig was born. Lou Gehrig, of course, we've talked an awful lot about lately. The one stat I haven't given you, Jeff, is I think this still goes, but the only two players in Major League history who were 500 games over 500 in their career for the teams they played, like while they were on the team. 500 games over 500 are Derek Jeter and Lou Gehrig. That's it.
Wow.
Is that pretty cool?
That is impressive.
Granted, they're on great teams, so of course
and that's a given.
Derek Jeter and Lou Gehrig, that's pretty good company.
Yeah.
Okay. Birthdays, I have a bunch of them. Dwayne Kuiper, one of the great defensive second basemen that I ever saw growing up, and is now someday will be a Hall of Fame broadcaster. He and Mike Krukow are both going to go in someday. They do Giants games and they're great. And I love Dwayne Kuiper. He makes fun of himself better than anyone. So he told me this story once, Jeff, that when he played for the Indians, it was his first start, and he's obviously just a rookie, in which Gaylord Perry, who would win the Cy Young, I believe, that year. Gaylord Perry was a rough, tough, great pitcher, Hall of Famer, way underrated. But Gaylord Perry looks at his teammate, Dwayne Kuiper, before the game starts and says, if you make an error behind me today, I will make sure that you never play another game for this team the rest of your career. Now, I'm going to look at this. That was the competitor that Gaylord Perry was. And here, poor Dwayne Kuiper, who had never started a game in which Gaylord Perry was the starting pitcher, was like scared to death. He didn't make an error because he was a great defender. And I hesitate to bring this up, but Gaylord Perry got a statue outside of Pac Bell Park, where the Giants now play. It's not called Pac Bell anymore, not the point. And he took a picture of himself, Dwayne Kuiper, giving the finger to Gaylord Perry. And he said it to me. Look, he was Gaylord Perry's friend, but that was just his little revenge for Gaylord telling him what he told him before his first start behind him. Oh my God.
That's incredible.
All right. Also born on 1950, Jeff, a pitcher named Jim Slayton, pitched for the Brewers, very good pitcher for a long time. And he went a couple weeks without winning a game. And his brother Frank was very concerned about his brother Jim. So Frank decided to go on like a hunger thing. He would only eat soup until his brother won another game. And it took a couple weeks, and Frank lost 16 pounds. And during the fast, he told his dad, do you want to join the fast with me? And his dad said, look, I love my son, but I'm not crazy. So he didn't join the fast. All right, 1974, Doug Minkiewicz was born, one of my favorite players, played for the Twins, Red Sox, few others, really funny guy. And with our last name, Jeff, which has been mangled so many times, I once asked him, what's the worst pronunciation you've ever had of your name? And he said, Manischewitz, Doug Manischewitz, not even close. So the story Doug told me that I'll never forget. He made a base running mistake. This is in the 80s. He makes a base running mistake, and Tom Kelly is the manager of the Twins. And Tom Kelly was a fundamental manager on every level, but it was a bad base running mistake. So after the game at Tiger Stadium, Tom Kelly ordered Doug Minkiewicz to go out and run the bases by himself to make sure he didn't make that mistake again. And one of the groundskeepers, who doesn't recognize who Doug Minkiewicz is yelling at him, hey, man, you got to get off the field. We have to drag the field and get it ready for tomorrow's game. And Minkiewicz said, sorry, I'm one of the players on the Twins. I'm being punished for a base running mistake. Sorry, you got to let me finish. So only Tom Kelly would make somebody do that. Can you imagine, Jeff, something like that happening today? There would be guys running the bases after every game. The base running is so bad in the big leagues today.
It is so terrible. But I could also see may he rest in peace. Kobe Bryant used to do that all the time after a game. He was never told to do it. He would just do it. If he missed a shot from the elbow, he would go and shoot that shot 100 times. That's Mamba mentality.
Right. That's what PGA Tour players do when they get a bad 4-iron. They go out to the range for an hour and go hit them. Last birthday, Colin McHugh, really good reliever for several years. 1987, Colin McHugh was born. I don't care how corny this sounds, Jeff. I wrote a story after Frank Robinson died. I wrote it for ESPN.com. And Colin McHugh came up to me and said, I read your story about Frank Robinson. He goes, I'd really like to talk to you someday about Frank Robinson. I'd really like to get to know more about him. And this really struck me that a guy who's playing in the 2020 is interested in Frank Robinson's career. And this is the same Colin McHugh that after COVID, remember, we weren't allowed in the clubhouse in 2020 or 2021. We go back in 2022. The writers do, the media does. And I'm in the Braves clubhouse, and he was not doing this to curry favor. He just came up to me and he said, I'm glad you guys are back in here. It's better when you guys are in here. And I thought, how rare is this for a baseball player to actually acknowledge, hey, the media's back in here and there's nothing wrong with that. I was really touched by that. Do you think I should have been?
I think so. I think that relationship between media and players can be so contentious at times, depending if the players want to talk to you or not. But I mean, there is none without the other. And I love that the media has a relationship, especially the beat guys. I mean, you were boots on the ground.
Yeah.
As a beat guy for years. And so you know the importance of the media, which is really neat. And now, Dad, from Ozzy to Oral, we're counting down the best players to wear each number 1 to 55. And we're on to number 22. If you missed 1 through 21, you can always visit our social media and you can check them out on there at Great Game or What on TikTok, on Instagram, or on Facebook. You can check us out. Or, I mean, we do them every Thursday as well. You can listen back to the pod. Number 22, what do you got?
Well, Juan Soto wears 22, but he hasn't done this long enough. Jim Palmer, number 22, greatest pitcher in the history of the Orioles, won a World Series game in 3 different decades. But I'm going with Clayton Kershaw. And again, Jeff, let's be clear. This is my list. It's not the right list. It's not the correct list. We're interested in what others think about these decisions that we make because they're not easy. But I'm taking Kershaw, 3-time Cy Young winner, won an MVP, 10 All-Star games. And, Jeff, most important, he has the lowest ERA, 2.51, of any pitcher in the live ball era, that's 1920 on, with at least 2,500 innings, the lowest. So of all these great pitchers that we see today, first ballot Hall of Famers, Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Clayton Kershaw is the best pitcher of this generation. He has been absolutely unbelievable. 695 winning percentage to go with everything else he's done with 214 wins. And most strikeouts ever by a member of the Dodgers. So let's see, Jeff. Let's see how good your memory is. It's been very good during this podcast, I must say. The anagram that I came up with for Clayton Kershaw's name. Now, the big clue, Jeff, is he's the all-time strikeout leader for the Dodgers. I know I've told you this. See if you can come close to the anagram for Clayton Kershaw.
All I remember is it has K and Cy in it. So I think it's like Cy Young wants K or something like that, but that's not right.
That's pretty close, Jeff. It's L.A. Cy Hero wants K.
Hero.
Or probably more accurately, L.A. K Hero wants Cy. That's an anagram for Clayton Kershaw. It took me 3 hours to come up with that on a middle seat flight several years ago on United. It was bad. But I came up with something on Kershaw, so it wasn't a ridiculous flight.
It was worth the 3 hours it took you to do this. All right, Dad, let's jump into the best of all, Tim. We go through each franchise in Major League Baseball, and you give us the best player in that franchise. Now, in spirit of our guest yesterday, we had Cal Ripken Jr. on the podcast, for goodness sake. If you missed it, you got to go back and listen to it. We had his son, Ryan Ripken, on as well, a celebration of a Father's Day this past Sunday. Dad, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I asked you to do the Orioles. Who do you got?
All right, this is virtually impossible. Frank Robinson played 6 years for the Orioles. He's the best player ever to play for that team, but he only played for them for 6 years. Jim Palmer, as I explained, is the best pitcher in the history of the club. There is not a close second. Eddie Murray, first ballot Hall of Famer, amazing player, of course. Brooks Robinson, like an all-time favorite of mine, greatest defensive third baseman of all time, vastly underrated hitter. But I'm going with our guest from yesterday, Cal Ripken. I mean, if you look at it, Jeff, you look at the greatest shortstops of all time. For me, it's Hannes Wagner and then either Derek Jeter or Cal Ripken in that one of those orders. That's pretty darn good. And Jeff, he changed the position by playing it at his size. So, Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter, Troy Glaus, Chipper Jones, Nomar Garciaparra, those were all guys who claim that they became shortstops in the big leagues or in the minor leagues, wherever, because they watched a big man like Ripken play the position. He had 3,000 hits, 431 homers, won the Rookie of the Year, won 2 MVPs, made 19 All-Star teams. And I just heard this, Jeff, from a stat guy, a friend of mine, Paul Evans. Boy, he's a mathematician, and boy, is he ever good. But he brought this up to me the other day, and I don't know exactly where he got it, but he claims it's a reputable place for the greatest defensive WAR of all time at all positions in baseball history. So to give it some credibility, Ozzie Smith is the number one defensive WAR of all time at any position, which, by the way, I would agree with. Number 2 is Brooks Robinson. Hard to argue with that. Number 3 is Mark Belanger, who played for the Orioles at the same time that Brooks Robinson was the third baseman. And number 4 is Cal Ripken.
Wow.
4th all time in defensive WAR. And number 6 on that list is Louis Aparicio, who also played shortstop for the Orioles. So they essentially went from Louis Aparicio, who turned it over essentially to Mark Belanger, who turned it over to Cal Ripken. 3 of the great shortstops in baseball history all played for the same team and basically consecutively. How about that?
That's incredible to think about. So I think there's a lot of arguments to be had about the greatest Oriole of all time. But as you mentioned, it's your list. It's okay for people to disagree.
Right. No argument here if you vote for Brooks Robinson, if you vote for Eddie Murray, if you vote for Jim Palmer, if you vote for Frank Robinson. I'm going with Cal Jr., and not because he was nice enough to come on the show. I just think he earned it, and I didn't even mention him playing and breaking the streak. That is secondary to the greatness on the field.
Let's jump into, Dad, final segment of the day. I am a seam head, where you submit your voice memos to me, Jeff at greatgamerwhat.com. Keep it under 60 seconds. Tell us why you're a seam head, whether it's your incredible baseball card collection or your ability to recollect every starting pitcher on opening day for the Kansas City Royals since 1972 or whatever it might be. We want to hear from you, Jeff at greatgamerwhat.com, Dad. And, we brought in a member of the family this week for I Am a Seam Head, right, Dad?
It's a relationship show, Jeff. This was a risk, but I think we got through it. Let's hear it.
Hey, guys. It's Kathy Kurkjian, and I guess I'm a seam head. Actually, I think I'm just forced to be a seam head, living in the house that I live in. I get enough of the statistics and stuff to not have to make any up of my own. But the kind of stuff that I'm seam head about, I guess, is very beginner seam head stuff. Like, I watch in games, I think it's cool when the player who's stuck on base at the end of the inning and he needs to play in the field and people bring him his glove and his hat, whatever he needs to play out in the field. I think that kind of stuff's cool. Same thing like when the first baseman is coming off the field and somebody tosses him a ball so he's ready to play catch at the beginning of the next inning. I think that kind of stuff is cool. Very, very beginner seam head.
How in the world did you get Mom, your wife Kathy, to do this? That was a great I Am a Seam Head submission.
Right. Well, Mark Simon, our dear friend, who was the first seam head to go on this podcast this year, recommended putting Kathy Kurkjian on. So the way I got her to do it was I said, look, I'm giving you a minute to make fun of your dorky, ridiculous, stupid husband. But she took the high road as always and chose not to do that. But she did a really good job on this. I was really proud of her. And I love what she said, especially her 2 seam-headed, situations. I love that. We give Mom a hard time. sometimes, but Mom's done an awful lot of great stuff around this house. And by the way, Jeff, I was just looking at the t-shirt quilt that Mom made for me. I was just looking at it yesterday. I'm not sure why, but and on it, and this has nothing to do with Mom, but there's a t-shirt there for the snowman. Do you know what that t-shirt's about?
Wasn't that a softball team or a basketball team you
played on? It was a basketball team that I played on for like 5 years in the late 70s, early 80s. So after about 3 years on the team, I finally asked our guys, and we had a great team. We won the league multiple times. I said, why are we called the Snowmen? And they looked at me and said, you don't know why we're called the Snowmen? And I said, no, I don't. Well, as it turns out, cocaine is another word for snow is another word
Dad,
for cocaine. So,
how did you not know this?
Well,
did you not go to any of the team after parties?
Well, after 3 years, I went to one of the team after parties, and it was late on a Saturday night, and they were doing lines in the car, Jeff, and they weren't layup lines. I promise you that. And I looked, because we used to play the games on Sunday morning, so I used to. I asked them, how can you guys play on Sunday morning having done this on Saturday night? And they said, well, why do you think we're so good on Sunday morning? Well, what does that mean? I didn't understand one word of that. I did not know that the name for cocaine was snow. We were called the Snowmen. I was on the team, and I didn't know why. Carl Ravitch, I told this to Ravi, and every once in a while, he'll just look at me and go, did I ever tell you that I played on a team called the Snowmen?
Poor Pop-Pop. That's a poor Pop-Pop right there. Well, Dad, speaking of poor Pop-Pop, next week on the show, our guest will be Dan Le Batard. And we won't get into it too much other than I know, and I'm going to surprise him with a couple of things in this interview, Dad. If it's not Scott Van Pelt Baltimore accent, it's the looks like game with Dan Le Batard. The thing you get recognized for maybe the most is that.
Yeah, that's pretty sad, Jeff. I'm a Hall of Fame baseball writer. More people know about the stupid looks like game and the long ew from Scott Van Pelt than anything else I've done in my career. I'm not angry about that. I'm flattered. But the lesson, Jeff, is it's always, always important to have a good chuckle once in a while, especially when you're covering baseball, because the season is so long. The job can at times be so hard, and the game is so hard.
That's coming up on Wednesday, June 25th, and, of course, a Tuesday, Thursday episode next week as well. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, thank you for being a part of our family.